All right, welcome to part two. This is when the Frank Mir looking cop shows up. Let's just get right into it.
Things treating you all right?
It'll be a lot better if I was left alone.
Are things treating you all right? No, nobody's treating us right. What kind of question is that? And here comes his opening.
Fair enough. Well, I tell you what, you asked for it in writing, and here it is. It says in the election code that you cannot record audio or visually within 100 feet of a polling place. And since they're polling across the hall, you're well within 100 feet of it.
Well, this is obviously ridiculous. They're trying to protect the judge from being accountable, just to summarize from part one. They're trying to protect the judge from having to be accountable for her blatant, ridiculous extortion racket schemes by saying, oh, you're within 100 feet of a polling place, therefore you can't record, even though we're nowhere near the polling station. It's on the other side of two walls in a hallway or something like that, and we don't want anything to do with anybody who's having anything to do with any of that. So they don't even address the fact that how ridiculous they're being. How passive instead of direct the attempt to defend their quote-unquote state, their precious state and their precious judge is. It's beyond ridiculous.
I'll give you a copy of it. This copy is for you.
And of course, what does he show up with? The same thing the previous lady showed up with, 10 minutes ago? A code. What was our answer to that? What's the applicability of it to us? If you can show us that, we will leave right here now. If you don't have the line that connects the dots between me or any of us in this room and your words written down, your precious code, it's not applicable. If you're correct, if you're standing on full, this is justice and you're right, you should be able to produce that document. Again, they produce it more than happily in the military courts and international courts, but not in this one.
You don't want it?
No, thank you. The only thing I'm interested in
Okay. Well, at this point in time, I'm going to ask you nicely to leave. If you refuse to do so, we will be forced to take action.
So he says if you refuse, there is no obligation. We can decline your offer and you can leave us alone. But no, he uses the word refuse. It would be helpful if you learned legalese, if you're going to be claiming to be a law enforcement officer, right? You should know the difference between refusal and declining. And whether or not he knows the difference, he's going to use the word refuse because the word defined implies an obligation on one party. Oh, you were supposed to do a thing, you had this obligation, but you refused to do it. No, he's declining your offer to leave. And then he backs it up with a vague threat. We're going to take action. Could you be more specific? And here's the biggest point I'm going to make throughout this video. If I want you to get one thing out of this video, it's this. When we're confronted by cops, they intentionally keep the violent threat vague. Our job is to get them to be specific about exactly what they're threatening. Are you going to put hands on me? Are you going to put handcuffs on me? Are you going to tackle me to the ground? Are you going to take me to jail? They obviously divert from such language because they want to seem like this is all voluntary and your choice is you can either leave the nice way or the more difficult way, but because we're giving you a choice, there is no violence involved. And if there is, you chose the violence because after all, we gave you a choice. It's the language that you speak to slaves. That is master type language. Hey, it's not violent. We got to keep this PC process. The chains on our society are mental, not physical anymore. So in order to do that, we got to give the appearance like this is all voluntary. And that's how they do it. So be specific when calling out the threats that cops are making. I'm just saying that to any viewer out there.
Are you going to use physical force to force me out of this building?
Perfect. Bow, obviously. Freaking perfect.
As I said, you are in violation of a statute, the election code.
Okay, well, which is it, genius? Is it a statute or is it a code? You claim to be a law enforcement officer and you don't even know that? Good job on Bow filming the gun here, by the way. That is what's driving all of this. Because I'll tell you something here and right now. If I could get away with it, and if there was any actual real justice in the world, I would tell this man to leave us alone immediately. And if you don't, I will exercise self-defense. And we will escalate that to whatever level you try to get away with. But if I have to shoot you in the head to prevent you from trying to put your hands on us because we want to record audio in a public hearing and keep this judge accountable, that is exactly what I'm willing to do. However, I can't get away with that. And so in 2018, that is not yet an option. These cops need to remember that one day it might be. And if it is, it'll be anonymously.
which I'm trying to hand you so you can read all you want.
So your position is because I'm physically here, that code and
Audio,
statute,
video recording.
He's completely ignoring what Bao's saying and just going with what's on paper. I'm just doing my job. I'm just following orders. This paper says I have the authority. Oh, this little badge, by the way, this is a detective. They sent over to detectives. And the gun and the cuffs, right? Here's his camera, right? I'm just going to ignore what you're saying and threaten you and then just repeat what I'm saying. I'm not going to be responsive to you trying to clarify my authority. The more you attempt to clarify the source of my authority, the more aggressive I'll become. That's the police.
Please stop interrupting me.
Within 100 feet of a polling place, that it's not allowed.
That's why I tried to jump in with show some mutual respect. Because A, we're being very respectful to him, whether he thinks it or not. And B, he's trying to dominate by interrupting. If you're correct, the words should be able to do all of the right on your side for you. You shouldn't have to interrupt in order to be right. If you're right, the power of your words will stand on its own, no interruptions needed. What is this, high school?
By the election code. There are 3 different parts of the statute. I will give you a copy of it, and you're more than welcome to read it. The problem is that the election code...
He keeps referring to 3 different parts of the code and the statute. The code and the statute. You've kind of barely explained the code, but you haven't mentioned anything about a statute except in passing. If you can clearly articulate what it is you're pointing at to someone else, don't you think it will help clarify and make more effective communication happen ASAP? Isn't that your goal here?
Says that you cannot because we have a polling place going on across the hall.
How do you sit here with a straight face and try to use the polling place code rules written down by nobody important enough to rule over us as an obvious deflection of keeping this quote-unquote judge, who's just a part-time lawyer, Darla Peevey, accountable for the nonsense fines she's extorting people with, who are innocent of any, violence or causing anyone actual harm, obviously.
Here is a copy of all of it. I will provide that with you. So I'm going to ask you nicely once again to go ahead and please leave the building because you can't do it within 100 feet. And
He's asking us nicely while approaching us armed to the teeth with the coward button walkie-talkie and this little fake authority badge. Yet he's doing something nice to us? His very presence is obviously a violent threat. Oh, but he's asking very nicely. He's asking nicely because he has a gun and he's not using it. That's his definition of nice. It's nowhere near a normal average human being's definition of nice, or polite, or respectful. What if we did to him what he's doing to us? If we're armed to the teeth and we say, we're going to ask you nicely to leave, and if you don't, we're going to take action. What do you think the cop would say into that circumstance? They would flip out. Oh, you're just threatening an officer, and here come more potential criminal charges, and they would escalate, guaranteed. They can put their hand on your back and try and guide you toward the door. But what happens if you put a hand on a cop's back and tried to guide him toward the door? What would happen? People don't ask this question because they just think, oh, it's a cop. How dare you? Oh, he's untouchable. The hell he ain't. And if you read the news lately, cops are starting to drop like flies. So the hell he ain't. They're mortal. And believe me, they're very, very flawed. And they're incapable, most of them, especially cops like this, of empathy. They are antisocial, delusional, psychotics, incapable of being able to feel another human being's feelings. And that's why they don't care. They exist on a plane that only cares about me, me, me. The world is might makes right. You don't have anything unless you're on the team that has the might. I'm on the team that has the might. I can justify it with this piece of paper. You will do what I say or I will escalate the violence. Period. That's a cop's position. You can try and be nice. You can try and be PC. You can try and show us a piece of paper written by a legislator. Doesn't improve your positional standing whatsoever, especially when it comes to logic or ethics, sir.
This is well within 100 feet. So I will ask you nicely.
Oh, it's 100 feet, not 90, not 110, but an arbitrary 100 feet. Why not 40 meters? Oh, and here he comes again. He's going to ask us nicely, because if this escalates to violence, it's these two that chose the violence, not me. I asked nicely twice, and I gave them the option while I'm standing here armed to the teeth. I could totally hurt them, stomp on them. They would be charged with resisting arrest. I would totally get away with it because of the thin blue line, how we all know how it goes down. The reality is so much different than his words. He is a liar, and he thinks he's well-versed and well-trained in verbal how to get away with it, but as you're about to see, we expose all of that. Here it comes.
One last time. Please
Are you gonna
stand
allow-
up so we can walk out.
What does one last time mean, Mr. Man with a gun?
Are you going to allow me to rebut? Or are you going to allow me to speak without interrupting me this time?
Awesome job, I bow, obviously.
Sure.
So your position right now is that because I'm physically here, that code and statute you just blurred out is applicable to me. Are you making that legal determination right now?
I make no legal determination.
Okay.
He's a law enforcement officer that makes no legal determinations? Isn't that a curious thing to say, and why would he say that? Because he knows in a court of law, officers can't make legal determinations because that's for lawyers. Lawyers. He's a law enforcement officer, but he can't do that? He doesn't even know how to respond because he's acting like he doesn't. I truly believe he doesn't because they don't train cops about jurisdiction or the applicability of statutes and codes.
What I follow is the statute. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it okay for me to talk this time?
Well, he did come to a stop and then he asked you a question, okay? Genius. If someone asks you a question, they're usually looking for a response. You don't have to then ask them, oh, is it okay if I speak this time? As if he's trying to bully verbally this cop. He's trying to score points. Oh, you're being verbally dominant. So is it okay if I speak this time? After all, I am the one with the gun. It's just the worst acting job. It's the worst attempts at manipulation I've seen in quite some time. It's really pathetic, this guy.
Well,
Can I talk now?
if you're not coming to a legal conclusion,
He's trying to hand you a copy of the legal conclusion right now.
Here comes Mr. Old Guy sitting behind me who wants to stick it for the cop. He's trying to hand you the legal conclusion right there on the paper. This guy obviously doesn't know anything about courtrooms or being a lawyer, and he thinks that a legal conclusion is on that piece of paper. He's completely wrong. And now I've got to jump in and try and calm this dork down so we can continue having this calm conversation with the cop.
There, but you're refusing to comply.
Sure.
Refusing to comply. Why, old man, randomly sitting behind me? Because your whole life you've quote-unquote complied, and you assume that he has an obligation to comply and is refusing to meet that obligation? John Q. Public taxpayer old guy sitting behind me has no idea what he's talking about.
At this point, you're trespassing, and you can ask.
Now he's making a legal determination that it's trespassing. First you have to be made aware. I consider you criminally trespassing. I'm going to give you one warning to leave. If you don't leave, I'm going to have you criminally trespassed. If you leave and then you come back, I'll have you criminally trespassed. Bao asked to clarify the claim that this cop made to back up his assertion. And this old guy who doesn't know a thing about courtrooms is like, you are now trespassing. Sometimes you just want to smack a dumb coward statist right upside the head. He has no idea, A, what he's talking about, and B, he's never had the guts to challenge authority like this, not his whole life.
So that would be a charge going against you.
And the appropriate response is laughter. I love Bao.
You don't. Everybody here is sitting here waiting for this to go on.
hey, at least you got the sheeple with you, huh?
There's a difference between those that count against you.
What?
What's the difference between code and law enforcement? You don't even know it, but you're thinking you're embarrassing yourself.
So you can't really hear me in there, but I'm basically trying to shut that guy up and say you don't even know it, but you're embarrassing yourself. I mean, because if he was to say this in court, he'd be laughed out of the courtroom. Like, it would be blatantly obvious that he has very little education as to what he's talking about. He's just using terms that he hears on Law and Order and thinks he's in the right because the guy with the gun's going to agree with him. He's sticking up for the guy with the gun. Oh, I'm about to see a judge. I better score cool points here.
We're talking legally. You don't know what you're talking about.
So you're not making a legal conclusion, but you will.
I'm enforcing the statute.
Are
You're
you going to threaten violence, or are you going to ask him to leave?
I've already asked twice.
If he's already asked you 3 times.
Excuse us.
And he's refused.
This will go quicker. This will go quicker if you just don't get involved.
This will go quicker if you leave as asked.
I'm trying to do this with a bunch of mutual respect, right?
Guys, I tell you what, please, if you'll give them an opportunity to talk so we can continue this discussion like adults.
So that's why I made an appeal to the cop, because when I said I'm trying to do this with mutual respect, right? I turned to the cop from the old guy and said that to him, because I'm not going to engage in an argument with somebody who obviously has no idea what they're talking about. He would win. I can only lose. I'm not trying to score win points there. So I'm just trying to get the statist coward to be quiet. So the cop says, oh, okay, you know, everybody, I put him on the spot. Let's just continue this without them. And the cop agrees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So I don't see how there's a refusal to leave because he's under no obligation. Now, he's saying he's going to decline to leave. Now, you can either, obviously, you can do what you want. You got the weapons and we don't. So ultimately, that's what's up. But we're not going to respond to requests to leave. Now, if you are going to say, we are going to put physical hands on you, and we're going to put cuffs on you, take you down to the jail, all those charges, hand charges to the prosecution's office, and then try and get them to sell a jury on it when we plead not guilty. I mean, I suggest you call the prosecution's office before you take those actions.
Now, here he comes with an interruption before I'm done. But some people might say, what do you mean you're going to plead guilty? I only said that to talk the cops' lingo for the effectiveness of the communication as to the bigger point I was making. Obviously, we're not just going to go in there and plead guilty. But I'm speaking to him in a way that says, look, the end-all be-all is not with you. You have to answer to your boss, to lawyers, and they have to answer to a judge. And if you think you're going to, through this action, convince, through your statist system, 12 jurors that we deserved to be arrested for trying to hold a judge accountable for actions, and it was being covered by a code and a statute that has to do with polling stations, and the whole time we're challenging the applicability of these codes and statutes to us. I'm trying to point out in as simple language as I can, because I know he's not going to get it, that we know this isn't going to be a good sell. And at best, the only thing they're going to be able to do is to inconvenience us with the threat of arrest. But all charges are going to be dropped, and he's going to look silly for doing it. I'm just trying to send a message there that, look, we think 3, 4, 5 chess moves ahead. You are only thinking about one. Do what I say or else, basically.
I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Okay, thank you. Because they're probably going to have a bit different story for you because they care about how this is going to play out in court. And at your level, of course you don't care. You've just paid to do a job, and if somebody says get him out of here, you look bad unless you don't, which puts you in a real bad position. So all I'm saying is, you're saying my authority is a statute. Okay, that's fine. But we're not having anything to do with an election box, and you know it, and that jury is going to know it. They're going to know because we have nothing. We don't care about the election whatsoever, and there's walls there. We have
Federal
nothing
jury.
to do with voters or anything. And if you're going to try to sell that to a jury, I suggest you go through the prosecutor's office first. Otherwise, if you arrest us and take us down there, you and them are going to have this conversation and go, "What are you doing?"
In front of
You're
a federal
gonna expect
jury.
me to make this follow through because just trying to get us punitively isn't going to work. What that's going to result in is lawsuit against risk management, a claim against the city, and then they're going to have to pay out, which makes the insurance rates goes up for these legislators and judges here. And they don't like any of that. We've done this dozens of times before. We know what we're doing. We're part of a national organization. So we're not intimidated by, oh, we've got a statute. See, because ultimately, lastly, thank you for your time. Lastly, ultimately, your statute, you're automatically assuming that it applies to him and I. But you have no paper to show us that says statutes apply to you or whoever because of reason X, because you don't have jurisdiction. Like in the military courts, they have signed documents for jurisdiction, but statutes and codes don't. They don't have any jurisdiction over anybody because it's not written down. It's just enforced by that gun on your hip. And that's really where we're coming from, man. It's just a might makes right world, and we're thinking, hey, these nonviolent victimless charges are no good. I respect you enough to be like, hey, I bet you'd be really good against actual bad guys. You want to be doing people who actually cause harm to others. I'm on that side. But when it's like, hey, your little teenager's out at 11 p.m., I'm going to charge you $250. There's no victim. There's no alleged difficult. It's just extortion via violence. So if you've got something, the paper that says the statute applies to him, we'll leave.
Is it my turn now?
Well, I stopped, so chances are, yeah, I'm expecting an answer. I mean, I basically summarize it there for him, and all I get out of it is a big frown, hiding a smile, nodding the head, just in complete denial that I could be saying anything legitimate, just, logical, ethical. He's got a toe to line, a line to toe. And what I'm saying isn't in the obedience category. So it doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth. I am certainly not trying to convince him to change his mind. He is beyond hope. He is not reachable, okay? This is not a human being that matters. He is and will always forever be on the side of our opponents. Period. He is their pit bull lapdog because they don't have the courage to enforce their will. So they hire men through bribes who are willing to use that gun to enforce nonviolent victimless criminal charges. Plain and simple. That's all that's going on here.
Thank you for listening. Go ahead, I'll listen.
Not a problem. Here's the deal. I don't make legal determinations because I'm not a lawyer, okay? What I go by is the people that are voted in,
Oh, God.
that make the statutes
Oh,
for this
God.
state, say that we want these to be statutes.
He doesn't at all even have a thought to who gets to vote, who doesn't get to vote. How many people actually vote? What percentage of the whole adult responsible population actually vote? It's a small minority. It's under 50%, guaranteed. So that small minority, their will of their legislators, it's all done through corrupt power schemes, lobbyists, whoever's got the most money, whoever's got the most connections, whoever obeys, whoever can be coerced. They write rules down, call them statutes and codes as if they have some kind of authority, vaguely point to it with the word law, and then that is inflicted upon everyone. Everyone. Whether or not they have consent. They don't give a flying crap about consent. He is trying to call rape consensual sex. That's what's going on. And I'm like, no, it's not. You can fool all these other cowards and sheep, but you can't fool us. It's not going to happen. Does he get responsive to any part of my summary I actually said? Of course not. He claims, it's just my job. I'm an order follower. The people who got voted in made these rules, and I have to obey them. He doesn't question whether or not those rules are justified. It's just whatever rules are legal is what they're going to do. Perfect example, Almost Park. Hey, you can carry a gun. Nope, now you can't. People get thrown to the street, tased. Next day, oh, now you can. So the cops stop throwing people to the street and tasing them. They don't care what's right or just. They only care about keeping their paycheck, keeping their power, wielding their power, using their ego, their machismo, to defend the actions they've taken their entire lives and their career choice. Keep in mind, their wife is dependent upon this career, their kids are dependent upon this career, their social status, how their family looks at them and respects them or not is dependent on this career. Their pension, all right? You can't convince a cop. Not this kind of cop, that's for sure.
At which point in time, once I'm sworn in as a peace officer, it's to enforce the statutes.
Oh, I see. Sworn in. I could go into all this, but is he going to listen to it? No. Do I have time for it? No. Sworn in by who? And you took an oath? And you took an oath to what? And what does that document say? And is what you're doing right now against that document? Because after all, I'm just trying to hold a judge accountable because I think she's breaking that document, and I don't even respect that document in the first place. He doesn't speak to any of that. He's just repeating the party line. Now, this is obvious to a lot of people. A lot of my regular viewers are like, we know, get on with it, we know. Cops are going to listen to this. Okay, and I just got to articulate all the different times where he's speaking nonsense and being completely non-responsive and deflecting. He's avoiding, right? Because he knows he can't win. He knows he can't beat me in the court of public opinion, but he's sure trying. And that's exactly where we are right now, in the court of public opinion.
Whether I like him or not, whether I believe in him or not.
Has nothing to do with whether you like or believe in it. It has to do with, is it logical and ethical? No one cares about your opinion. You've got half a brain rolling around upstairs. I'm sure you're double digits on the IQ test. No one gives a shit.
I believe in enough that we have a process for a reason.
I don't care about your beliefs or your opinions. I care about what's written down on paper. We have a process for a reason? Could you be more vague? Oh, it's justice. If we don't do justice, then people will take justice out on themselves. We'll have vigilante justice. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on that one.
As somebody that dealt with UCMJ as well, I'm fully aware of that side of it.
No, you're not. He's Military signaling. Oh, I've been in the military too. I'm fully aware of that side. You're not fully aware of it. You just didn't address it at all. You just said, oh, UCMJ, as if he shot down my UCMJ point. Oh yeah, totally defeated. Win, victory. It's about jurisdiction and consent. God, this guy. I don't think he's... I think he's slightly clueless, and the majority of where he's coming from is just lying and manipulations. I think this guy actually kind of knows the hustle enough to try and make it through one of these conversations, but not entirely. For sure, he's not even anywhere close to understanding what's pointed at with the word law, even though he's a law enforcement officer. All right, let's go on.
The coin too. But here's where the kicker comes in. Because the people that were elected made the statute that said during an election process, you are not allowed to visually or audio record within 100 feet of a polling place, which is what is right across the hall, well within 100 feet. It doesn't say if there are walls that separate you or if you're in a different part of the building. No, hold on. I gave you the time.
Because I'm laughing at him. I'm laughing at him because he's actually trying to defend me being able to keep recording a judge to hold him accountable to this is justified because of the 100 feet within the polling station. What if the courtroom was 110 feet away from the polling station? Would you be in this room right now? I should have asked him that. It's just, he's doing this with a straight face. I know he knows this is complete horseshit. And he's just selling it on YouTube because he knows he's being filmed and in the court of public opinion, because there's still so many people out there that will actually go along with his version of nonsense.
Now I asked that you give it to me. You were about to. But I didn't. But you didn't.
So he interrupted himself, even though I didn't say a damn word, and then claimed to know that I was about to. I'm laughing at him, and he didn't like me. I laughed at his nonsense because he knew he was talking just all kinds of lies.
You are right. All right. So because I am charged with enforcing those.
Charged with. I'm charged with. I don't have any choice. I can't use my own conscience in this determination.
It is a Class C violation. It's something very simple, which is why we come and talk. I'd be more than happy to give you all the statutes. And
it's a Class C violation according to what? And I don't care how many statutes you gave me. See, here's him being very evasive by continuing to touch home plate of it's a statute and code, it's a statute and code. What do we say? Give us the writing that says the statutes and codes are applicable to you because of claim reason number X, reason X. And of course he can't touch that at all because it doesn't exist. I don't know if he knows it or not, but it doesn't exist. So what does he do? Ignores and goes right back to here's a statute, here's a statute. Like, if he were to ask me any questions, I would not evade. I don't have to. I can directly answer every single question he wants to ask me. He cannot do the same. What does that say?
Arm you with the information so that way you know exactly what it says.
Arm you with the information like it's a weapon? Interesting choice of words. I'm obviously unarmed.
Just like I do. But you guys are refusing to take the paperwork. I'll still give it to you. Would you like it?
I'll take it.
Sure.
I'll take it because I want to read what the heck he's trying to sell, and I've got it, and it's just hilarious. They just went up to some website, printed off 10 pages. It says ethics and codes at the top, and all kinds of information that doesn't apply at all. And I'm just like, what a bunch of garbage. They just wanted something to hand over for the court of public opinion. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here's the ethics and codes, statutes. Nothing about the applicability, of course.
So now, having the information there.
I have papers in my hand. Does that mean I have the information? He's going to imply that it's in my brain and I'm responsible for it because that's what the state does. Lawyers do that too.
And knowing that they have decided that it is a violation.
They. Who's they? A violation according to what? A statute or a code. And oh, by the way, do you have the applicability of that to me, to us, to any of us? No. It's just repeating the religion. The church is true because the church is true. The Bible is true because the Bible is true. Point to the Bible, show you it's true inside the Bible. Oh yeah, where exactly in the Bible does it say it actually applies your version of reality in the Bible to me? Oh, the Bible is true. The Bible is true.
Whether you say it's victimless or not, because understand, everybody in this room that has been upset about it, or anybody that might have walked across the hall to vote that was upset that you were audio or visually recording, that's the victim at that point in time.
God. He claims that the people who get upset, by virtue of their upsetness, warrant them being the victim and us being perpetrators. Their hurt fifis make me a criminal. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a Class C violation. Which just means no prison time, you dork. Threatening to take us to jail, and that it's only a fine. Do you even know that? Oh, hurt feelings justify the threat of violence and the use of violence against you in a comply or die manner. Comply or mace, taser, torture, knee in the back, solitary confinement, shitty food, no medical care, no lawyer, an unspecified amount of time you'll be in there, habeas corpus ignored. Their hurt feelings justify entry of you upon their endlessly escalating threat of violence until you obey. That is the actual reality of this, and he can hide it behind all these little statutes and codes, voters, they wrote, voters put in, they wrote. You can hide it behind all that you want to. You're still just a gang-banging thug. You're a mercenary. You're a piece of shit, dude. That's what I won't say this about the other 4 cops, but this dude is a manipulative, lying piece of shit, trying to sell a shit show as reality. He's unreachable. He doesn't matter. And if he gets hurt in the line of duty, I won't give a crap. I'll dance on his grave. To be honest. I'd look it up and go dance on that and live stream it too. How about that?
So, and you can laugh and you can think it's funny. That's not here for me to debate with you. If there's an argument about it, I know you as...
What does me laughing have anything to do with a debate? It's just laughter, you fool. He's in over his head. It's so obvious.
Well as you know this because I've listened to your show and I know some of the things that you've gone through in fighting the court system, right?
Oh, you tell me. I don't know you, but you know me. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So this is the first moment in time he let me know I've seen you on YouTube before. Okay, fine. That's all I gave him in response. I don't care.
I'm listening.
So I understand that you know as well as I do that this game isn't argued right here, okay? If you want to argue it, it's argued in the court.
They need us to argue. I'm not arguing. It takes 2 people to argue. I'm not interested in arguing whatsoever. I am clarifying your claims, sometimes known as the cause and nature of the charges against me, right? Dare I say. I'm clarifying your claims with questions. It's impossible to make an argument unless you make a claim. Now I'll clarify, and in the absence of your responsiveness, I will toss out conclusions that make logical sense given your evasiveness and your use of logical fallacies. That's clarifying. It's not arguing. They need you to argue. They need you to be angry. They need you to be butthurt because they know exactly how to deal with people like that. They don't know how to deal with mockery, which is why they try and turn that around just as soon as you can. Interrupt the laughing.
See, it's arguing in the court of public opinion right there.
That's cool. They can argue it all they want.
You can't win in the courts of these judges. And by the way, they put a
Yeah,
polling
yeah,
station
you can.
right next to every courtroom so that people like you can come in and say, oh, you're within 100 feet of a polling station. Just so happens there's a courtroom in here to
Again,
protect the judge.
Not my
Oopsie.
choice.
Not my choice. I'm just following orders. I'm here ready to threaten you with violence. Not my choice at all.
Not my choice.
expect
I
us
don't
to
make
be
that
able to believe
decision.
it,
He knows it's bullshit. That's why he denies it being his choice. He knows it's illogical. He knows it's a scam. He knows it's his passive-aggressive way of protecting judges. He knows it. That's why he doesn't claim it's his choice at all. He tries to distance himself from it. And yet here he is. Oh, they voted. I obey. I was charged with this. The lingo of police is pathetic. It's pathetic. And this is a detective. Okay, this is no rookie.
Oh, don't insult our intelligence by saying, oh, you do want to do something with
I promise you,
voters.
they didn't ask my opinion. So
Man.
here's the deal.
It's just logical
I've already
fallacy
asked
after
twice.
logical fallacy.
I've already asked twice.
Yeah.
If you refuse to leave,
Decline.
If you decline,
Okay.
which is the same thing as
It's not.
refuse.
According to
Potato,
you,
potato.
It's
okay?
not. If you're a lawyer, you
Hold
know
on.
that.
Are you going to let me talk or are you going to continue to interrupt me?
I'm just saying.
All rise, court is now session.
So they know the cop's not going to win. So now what they do is they start the court. This is pre-programmed. They're listening the whole time. The judge probably goes, it will be a crime if they're recording while I just opened the court for business. And it's going to scare them, and the police are going to have more justification in the court of public opinion to remove these people by force. So we're just going to all rise. And no, hey, the judge is ready to enter. Hey, none of that. Just all rise for the element of surprise. And then here comes Darla Peevey, a lawyer who practices family, probate, will and estates, some kind of nonsense legal practice like this, right? They hire her as a part-time quote-unquote judge, place a black curtain over her multitude of folds, and get her to extort people for money. I'm not shocked. I'm just laughing at how incredulous, how ridiculous this whole illusion, this sideshow is. It's cracking me up.
Crowley Municipal Court. It says, please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. They are not allowed in the courtroom. Good luck with that.
You can be seated. Anyone with a electronic device currently on will be held in contempt of court.
That's a nice way of saying be thrown in jail. They hide the put in jail with the words contempt of court.
Darla, is your bond going to be able to catch that order?
That's not a proper way to address the judge.
If she could answer that responsively, she would have. She can't. Pal knows this game better than I do. She doesn't have a bond. She's not a real judge. She's a part-time lawyer. She's selling the illusion that she's a judge. She's not. It's just extortion. And this coward right here, this bailiff doesn't even have the guts to do the confronting. He has to call over real cops. He's just a constable? Real detective to do his dirty work for him because he doesn't have the courage to take us on his own. He will not attempt to enforce what he's paid to. So he uses that coward button right there to get more people to help him out with it. Darla Peevey. Hilarious.
Josh, can you remove him from the court?
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you nicely. Please, go ahead and step on out.
Josh, can you remove him from the courtroom? Using the first name. That's super professional. And at least Josh didn't freaking... Well, he couldn't have because he was... it was just him against us too, right? If there were 6 of them, he might have just grabbed us. Judge said remove you, we're removing you, and escorted us out by force. But because we have these live streaming camera, and because Bao's done a lot of work, and they know what he's about, and that they can't just stomp on the equipment and ruin that footage forever. Gentlemen, so now it's like, oh Lord. Now he's gonna have so much pressure on him. Like if he doesn't, then what's next is he's gonna call for backup, and then we won't just be able to leave. Even if we left after he calls for backup, they're gonna follow us. They're gonna arrest us. And lucky for these people, I was in a position where I couldn't get arrested this day. Oh, I'll be able to get arrested at days in the future, and I'll put that on the Court of Public Opinion on YouTube too, but not on this day. Lucky for them.
Sir.
If I don't, are you going to...
Hey,
this isn't
At
a
this
challenge.
point, at this point in time,
Will
hold on.
you physically
Sure,
remove...
finish your question.
'Cause if
At
you-
this point in time, can I answer now?
Now they surround me. Let's do the bully move, and while he's sitting, we'll stand and come up and get closer to bully close level. Like this is high school. It's a joke.
violence, I will leave. But if you ask me, I won't.
Oh, they're going to threaten you with violence.
I'm telling you what I will do.
Oh, so that is saying
I've
you
asked
will.
you. Now I'm going to tell you. You need to leave.
Is there anything...
If you decide not to leave, I then will make you.
Okay.
There's the threat of violence. I then will make you physically. That is the threat of violence. He actually goes outside later and lies and said he never did threaten me with violence. I mean, you've seen the original. The whole video has been up for a while. If you've watched it, you know that. But and his stance here, with his one hand on his fist, crossing his chest like that. Are there no fitness standards? Are there no fitness standards for these people? Jesus.
Is,
Do you want your copy of the paperwork? Please, go ahead. Do you want me to hold one of those for you to help record? No. I don't mind.
Hey, last question.
Come on.
And just for the record,
That's cool. No more records with
them.
the judge.
Not
Come
with
on.
you.
Oh, yeah. Hey, just for the record, or just last one question. Is there anything you won't do for your master?
Because of violence. Because
Is
of
there anything you
violence,
won't
we're
do for your
leaving.
master?
After all,
Keep
he's got
going.
the guns.
Keep going.
It's a might makes right world.
Is it?
Hey, so they've got.
I really hope it didn't.
I was walking backwards and I knocked over this little, they had like an art easel with like a little grease board on it. I knocked it over. And then he's like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's intentional. You can be held accountable. Listen to this.
Damage that.
Do that on purpose.
It's not. It doesn't have to be on purpose.
Well, you shouldn't have put it so close to the door. It's a little bit scary.
Is it?
It's called paying attention to what you're doing. Especially you're still within 100 feet of the polling place.
All the cops have cameras on them. You've got cameras on you. You have cameras within 100 feet. Oh, so cop cameras are okay, but regular people's cameras aren't. Look, these two here, I'm not going to clown them at all. At all. They didn't mean mug me. They didn't even talk to me. So nothing dumb could have come out of their mouth. Look how young they are. They're in plain clothes like they're detectives too. Really? Neither of these kids look like they're 25. I mean, this is just something straight out of high school.
Then we still gotta go, right?
Hey, they brought in the experts. Hey, they brought in they brought in the experts. They brought 3 of them. Hey, is
See
it?
the county council about this, and actually, it's not even personal.
Oh yeah, I need a
Against the judges.
business card.
I don't have one on me. My
Name tag, please.
You got a
Detective
badge,
White,
right?
badge 312.
Name
What's your
ta-
first name?
Detective White, badge
How
312.
bad do your parents hit you to name you detective?
I know, man. It's crazy
That's a
like
title.
that,
What's
isn't
your
it?
first name? Yeah, Detective White, badge 312.
What's up, Morris?
Pal, no, these two cops too. So they've strategically surrounded us. That's cool. Camera, coward button, all within 100 feet of the polling station.
We're against the judges ultimately.
Okay, I'm with you, man. And
Ran too much.
I've
You're
watched
not
your
with
show.
us.
Hey, James.
Look, and
How you
if
guys
you want
doing,
to,
man? We're not any kind of angry or nothing like that.
they're not. They're not. Look, I've watched your show, and you can continue recording. Look, I've watched your show.
Okay.
I've listened to it more than anything.
I'm kidding.
Okay, 'cause, a lot of yours, you'll leave a picture up, and you don't necessarily show yourself. You
Sometimes I do,
talk about
sometimes I don't.
it. Sometimes, but mostly it's the picture. I've listened.
Can you move your
And
hand real quick?
Trust me, I'm understanding that, what it is that you're trying to do and how you're saying.
You got an ID on you?
Judges. But understand that it's
Yeah,
not-
you got an ID on you?
I don't make legal
You
determinations.
got an ID?
That cop cracked a smile. See, they didn't say nothing to me. They didn't back up their boy. They didn't mean mug me. I ain't got nothing to say about them two. I don't have a thing to say about them two. I don't expect them to lose their job or not participate. They weren't up in my face when I was in court. I ain't got nothing to say about these two. That's a first. I'm shocked to hear myself say that. Oh, Bal, you're always cracking me up, man.
ID on you?
It's not my legal determination. Right here, you can see it. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the prosecutor. I'm not the judge. You know what I'm saying? What I do is I take the book
Right.
that has the statutes, I read through it, and when it says that there's a violation, then I have a duty to go.
My duty. All right, I'm at 30 minutes of the original. There's really only like 20 minutes left. I'm going to turn that into part 3. This is fun to do. This is funny for me to do. What's his first words as he come out? He just repeats the exact same thing. He's already said, what, 2 or 3 different times inside the courtroom? Well, see, I have a duty to do, my duty, because of the statutes and codes. Like, dude, can you come up with any new material? Because that isn't working. Just like you acknowledged, you've been in the military. The UCMJ, dude, right? The UCMJ. The applicability via jurisdiction, via consent of the governed. You don't have it. You're just armed thugs. That's all it is. You can try and talk word games around it, but all you've got is 1 or 2 points, and I shoot them down every time. At least these other 2 guys were smart enough to not even try and defend it. I don't know if they were told, don't say anything, don't talk at any time, I got this. But, I mean, we're clearly going back and forth in a somewhat as friendly as possible manner as you can against, you know, like a foreign occupying soldier invading your land and controlling you with his guns. As friendly as that can be. So, yeah, let's wrap it up. That's all I got for this one. Part 2. This is Ethics Instead. Take care. Have a good one.